Hey everybody, welcome back to Readers That Write. Today we're going to be tackling a lore accurate knight list based on Assassinorum Kingmaker. So, I know a lot of you guys have been discussing this in the comments throughout my videos, especially on the book reviews, on how to do a lore accurate army for the books you love. So we're going to tackle it today and next week. Next week we're going to be tackling Lion Son of the Forest and trying to build an army similar to the ones he pulls in there. That one will be a little bit more difficult than this knight army that we're going to talk about today. But before we dive into that, make sure you like and subscribe. We have a lot of really cool stuff coming over the next several weeks. So make sure you also ring that little bell to get notified of any stuff coming up. So let's talk about it a little bit and maybe dive into the knight army that I think you should build if you're wanting to make one to match exactly what you see in Assassinorum Kingmaker. Before we do that, maybe let's talk a little bit about knights in general. Knights are houses of nobles that spawn from large agricultural worlds, especially after Old Knight. They're equipment that was originally used for agricultural and shipping purposes that were weaponized in order to defend colonies. And a lot of these knights are extremely ancient and have a lot of legend and lore behind them. So they're a staple of their societies. And their pilots have become the nobility across the board. They're the ones who control everything. They're the ones who do everything for the people politically and economically. They're the driving force there as well. They've also sworn allegiance to the Imperium in order to create either a mutual defense pact, which is the case here, Assassinorum Kingmaker, or in a lot of cases they've outright sworn fealty to the Imperium and follow it as closely as they can. And as we've discussed in last week's video, there's a lot that goes on this particular world, and there's a couple different layers to the knightly order. You have Canis Rex, the de facto leader, or the knight that belongs to the leader of all of the people. And we could pick that knight and run with it, but I want to pick the more subtle approach. Now, to avoid spoilers, there is one specific knight who is key to the entire story that you don't meet well until the end. So I'm going to try and avoid giving too many details there. But I used that knight as my baseline for my warlord. And then I worked out from there. You can, like I said, follow this to get a lore accurate rule. But in reality, you just need a single supreme knight or something of more value to the game to be your leader. There's always that one knight that has the crown in almost all knightly houses. So in this case, you have a lot of different knightly houses you can choose from. You have Strider and Rao. In this book are the two knightly houses, and you have kind of a third house of the royal line, which is a blending of the two houses. One house is usually covered in red, one house is covered in blue, and that royal house is quartered in red and blue. There's a lot of different traits and abilities you can use when picking any of the knightly houses. You also have a lot of knights in general that just have their own unique heraldry. And because there's so many different knightly houses, if you don't want to stick with one of the main houses you'll be able to find in the codexes, you can always create your own. There's a lot of really cool paint schemes that I've seen while going to tournaments and things like that that give a very unique feel to knights. But in this case, we're going to stick to the royal house. And that means most of our knights are going to be quartered in red and blue. with one exception, and he's going to be green. Now, if you've made it through Assassinorum Kingmaker, you know exactly which knight I'm talking about, which is fantastic. His weapons loadout's a little weird. It made him a little hard to identify. But because of Volcano Lance, I went with the Knight Lancer. This knight in particular doesn't actually carry a shield, which made it a little weird. And I'm sure Knights players will be able to tell me if there's another knight that actually meets this better. If there is, please let me know. Because I really am tempted to build this army myself. I would love to actually be able to go and play knights in a lore accurate role in a larger game. So, with this, you always have your armigers that are paired with each knight. I will discuss that a little bit later. But you have room for 2 more knights in a 2,000 point army, while allowing for some armigers. And I went with one knight who's going to be a little bit more close quarters, and one knight who's going to be a little bit longer range. So I went with the Knight Gallant and the Knight Paladin. They're both very different in the way they fight, which is what I was hoping for. I wanted one that could be a little bit more standoff and shoot, and another one who could be a little bit more smashy, with my leader kind of being that mix. He's going to be a little bit of a borderline. His Volcano Lance does have some range to it, but has a lot of power elsewhere, and can take a beating, which means he'll probably be my main battle or my main damage taker. With all of that, the big thing that's discussed in Kingmaker that really surprised me that I didn't know about knights, and I'm sure this is in lore elsewhere, is the process that they use to link armigers to the knights. They often refer to it as slaving, where an armiger or 2 will be paired with knights and will be under their direct or indirect control, allowing the knight to use them almost as extensions of themselves during a fight. And I wanted to get that feel as much as I possibly could. So I have, in order to make this work, I had to cut to 5 instead of 6 armigers. I went with 2 Helverin, a Moirax, and 2 Warglaves. Once again, giving me some shooting and some melee to be paired accordingly, leaving me with an extra armiger to kind of run around and do some back control or sneak up on different objectives and do missions, which you kind of have to have with the Knight Army. Now, with all of that said and done, there's a lot that goes into this, and if you want to see the full list, I will have that linked below. There's a PDF link down below that will allow you to see the exact list. Feel free to download it, use it. If you do, send me pictures. I want to see your knight armies. I want to see all the cool stuff you do with them. So this goes into one of the parts that I think is really, really cool with knights, and that is your ability to paint and model them on a full different scale that you can't do with the much smaller minis in Space Marines or any of your Xenos factions or anything like that. It allows you to really break out the full weight of your artistic skills, which is why they're so daunting as well. But I really want to try it. I've reached a point in my painting abilities that I can knock out an army pretty well. I can do a decent job making things look good. I've got a new project I'm about to start here soon that is testing me a little bit more, as well as a project that I'm wrapping up that is pretty straightforward. So I eventually want to try a knight because it will require me to do a lot more than what I'm doing now and pay a lot more attention to what I'm doing compared to some of the just general infantry units that only require 4 colors and a wash. to make them look good enough to match up to the rest of the army. But all of this is a lot of work. So if you are a Knights player, first off, that's awesome. I hope your army looks really good. And like I said, send me pictures. At any Warhammer event I go to, the Knights are some of my favorites to see because of the work that goes into them. I've never seen a very messy or poor quality. I should say not intentionally messy. Because I've seen some Nurgle-themed Chaos Knights that are messy, but in a good way. But I'm getting off track here. Send me pictures. I'd love to see them. And let me know which models are your favorites, or if you would tweak this list at all. Remember, we're not trying to be competitive. We're trying to be lore accurate here and make it playable on a tabletop. And I think with this list that we've got, you can definitely do it. It's going to be a playable list. It's not going to be winning any tournaments as far as I'm aware, but it is playable enough that you can bring it into a narrative campaign or any tabletop play with your friends or your local gaming group and still achieve a fun game. Now, the next question always comes up, and I've got this all pulled up here to the side of me, is how do you afford this? Honestly, this actually surprised me. Knights, compared to the White Scars that we did 2 weeks ago, we're on average, about $500 cheaper. So this army was less expensive than actually building out the White Scars fluffy army or lore accurate army, I shouldn't say fluffy army, lore accurate army that we discussed a few weeks ago. So at retail prices are based off of Warhammer.com. Building this list would run about $1,000 or $1,018. It's not terrible. It's actually cheaper than the value price White Scars army that we did last week, and a few of the armies we have coming as well, which surprised me for how many big models there are. But I think because they are so big and they are so heavy in points value, it did balance out pretty well. It takes us to roughly $2 per point, which for modern Warhammer is pretty good. Now, I did do my value research. Once again, Wargame Portal, not a sponsor. If they would like to, I'm game. But not a sponsor, but they're typically where I found the best prices. I did find the best prices on 2 of these models on Amazon instead. That saved about $20 in the end. Not a huge price difference, but having to do a mix of Amazon and Wargame Portal was a little bit more difficult for the value. But it did drop us all the way down to $887.65, which is really good. It's less than I've spent on a lot of armies doing swaps and things like that as well. So for the value price, like I said, I used Amazon and Wargame Portal. They were the best that I could find that were repeatable purchases. So I didn't want to go off of something like eBay or any Facebook marketplace groups or anything like that, because I might be able to find them, but that doesn't guarantee you'll be able to find them when you watch this video. So, like I said, I wanted to stick with places where you can find them easily and repeatably. I never want you guys to get shortchanged, but keep in mind, these prices are as of August of 2024. Knowing the way Warhammer's prices are going, those numbers are probably only good for about 6 months. Also, I do have this actual research and breakdown that I have in the description as well. So make sure you check that out. Now, I did do a fluffy total as well, because the Horus Heresy series has a little bit more fancy knights that allow for a little bit more pizzazz in larger scales, and they have a lot more features and detail to them that you don't get in the 40k versions. This does make them a little bit cheaper, but mixed in with the armatures and stuff like that being found on the discount sites, so Amazon and Wargame Portal, it takes us to $937.10. Now, for Knights, these are rough estimates. Like I said, there's several different versions of Knights you can go with. Those prices will vary a little bit. A lot of it's based on the pattern of the Knight itself. But there's a lot of really, really cool things you can do with Knights once you have them. The best part of them is you can attach them to any Imperial army you want. So once you have one, they're now usable in game as long as you're playing the Imperium. And they also make for very good boogeymen for your friends who play Xenos in narrative campaigns. So they're great to have even if you just start with one of them. And you can start with any of the 3 main Knights or a couple armatures, however you want to do it. There's a lot of really cool stuff you can do across the board with them. So that is the Knights list we have so far. Let me know down in the comments below if you think I should swap out any of those to make it maybe a little bit more competitive on the tabletop. But I'm really excited about this one. This hopefully will eventually become part of my play cycle along with a couple armies I have. And I really hope you guys enjoyed this as well. If you have any other armies you would like to see, let me know down in the comments below. Dark Angel is coming next week. The week after, we will see. I'm trying to decide if I want to do another one of these and do 3 in a row, or if we want to break it up with maybe another book review. Because I'm still diving through the heresy, and I've got a lot to talk about there as well. So let me know down in the comments below what you guys want to see here in a couple weeks, a book review, or another lore accurate army. And if you do say lore accurate and you have one you want to see, let me know in the comments below as well. I'm super excited to do more of these. And thank you guys for joining. We'll see you guys next time.